Can the RTX 5070 Ti provide a pleasant ray tracing experience in games when paired with a 4K monitor? Let's find out. To test this, I paired the MSI Gaming Trio OC Plus version of the 5070 Ti with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU inside of the Be Quiet PC build powered by MSI. To ensure that we cover all bases, we will be testing 3 games today. A slightly older, but still very ray tracing intensive Cyberpunk 2077, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which also has full ray tracing, but it is also a memory intensive game. It requires a lot of memory to run at the highest graphics quality presets, and Alan Wake 2, which is one of the most GPU demanding titles of the recent years. And we'll be experiencing these games today on one of the best monitors for the job. This is the brand new MSI 272URX. It features a 27-inch 240Hz QD OLED panel. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, then you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Let's start with Cyberpunk 2077 at the highest graphics quality preset, Ray Tracing Overdrive, which means that it's full ray tracing, which includes path tracing. Let's start with native DLAA performance just to get a sense of the baseline that we can expect from native resolution from the 5070 Ti. No frame generation, and I'll turn off all of these things that mess with the image quality, motion blur, film grain, and whatnot. This settings configuration is not playable at all. We are at 16 FPS right now. This is a slideshow. It's not even a cinematic 24 FPS experience like in the movies. It is way worse. This will not do, so let's introduce some DLSS resolution upscaling to improve that performance. Let's start with DLSS quality. This is slightly better. We are now at 30 plus FPS, although there will be dips below 30 in the most demanding scenes in the game, because while this is one of them, I know that in the Dogtown, in the new DLC, yeah, the performance is even worse than this. So this is not good enough as well, even if you're okay with a 30 plus FPS experience. Let's keep lowering that resolution upscaling quality. Next up is balanced mode. For me to enjoy this game properly, I want to see at least 60 FPS. And this is not it. We're getting 40-ish FPS with dips below, 35 actually was the lowest number I've seen right there. So yeah, it's more of a 30 plus FPS experience than 40. Which means that we have to keep lowering that DLSS quality. Let's go for performance. This is somewhat promising. However, we're still quite far away from the 60 FPS target. This is a 40 plus FPS experience now, sometimes reaching 50 plus in some scenes. Let's have a look. Can we get 55? No. 52, 53, and mostly below 50. While this is a playable experience already, it is not quite as smooth as I like. Yeah, so I'm going to look for another graphics settings configuration, but I think that some of you might find this settings configuration actually acceptable. If you think that you can just use frame generation to boost FPS from here, then I don't really recommend it, because for frame generation to be at its best, you need at least 60 FPS to begin with. If you don't, it will not feel as nice, both in terms of visual quality as well as controls responsiveness. By the way, with the new DLSS 4, DLSS performance mode now looks pretty darn good, I would say. Yeah, I would compare it to DLSS 3 balanced mode. If you didn't mind using DLSS 3 balanced mode, then I think you'll be quite happy with using DLSS 4 performance mode. So far, I am quite satisfied with the image quality I am seeing on this 27-inch monitor using DLSS 4 performance mode. But we still have to find out what it takes to get to that 60 FPS experience with ray tracing enabled, so let's go ahead and lower the DLSS quality to ultra performance now. And here we are. We are well above 60 FPS now, sometimes reaching 84, mostly staying above 70. Yeah, in terms of image fluidity, this is very nice. The controls are now responsive. The game feels really good in terms of visual fluidity. However, the image quality is, it's not the best. It's definitely a far cry from using DLSS performance mode. Ultra performance, I don't quite like how it looks, even on the 27-inch monitor. Finer details are just not sharp enough. Yeah, the image looks really soft. Ultra performance mode upscales from 720p to 4K, which means that DLSS doesn't really have a lot of information to work with, which results in quite horrible images if we're looking at transparent objects, foliage, or anything else really in the game. So I don't like this. I can't really call this a pleasant experience. I think there is a better way to achieve a good ray tracing experience in this game. Let's set DLSS back to DLAA, which means that we are at native resolution, and we'll lower the ray tracing preset from Overdrive to Ultra. That drops DLSS back to auto, so let's reselect DLAA and ray reconstruction enabled. The performance difference between ray tracing Overdrive and ray tracing Ultra presets is quite significant. With ray tracing Overdrive, we had 15, 16 FPS at native resolution, and now with Ultra, we have 24 to 25. That is quite a bit more, which makes me hopeful that we can achieve a good experience at higher image quality. Let's select DLSS quality mode. And look at that, we are already at 50-ish FPS, sometimes dropping to 45. Okay, this is already a playable experience. And in terms of ray tracing visuals, we still get a lot. The lighting is beautiful. The shadows are good. Take a look at that. Ray traced lights. And reflections are still quite good. Of course, they are not as good and clear as when we're using ray tracing overdrive mode, but still, this is a good experience. It looks realistic as heck. I like it. I think this is a better experience than ray tracing overdrive. I mean, using this GPU specifically, obviously ray tracing overdrive looks better, but to use it you need a much more powerful graphics card. I feel like we'll have a good time with DLSS balanced mode. Let's see if I'm right. Oh, we are so close! Look at that! We're almost there, and sometimes we are actually above 60 FPS. Just a little bit more, and it would have been perfect, because DLSS 4 balanced mode looks very good. And it's such a shame that we can't get a consistent 60 plus FPS experience. But I think this is pretty good. Generally, if I'm getting above 55 FPS, I'm quite happy with the performance if I'm looking to maximize visual quality in a game. But then again, this is a shooter game, first person, so it's really difficult to accept 55 FPS. Ideally, I like having 90 FPS in this type of games, but I can live with 55 FPS, especially since we're getting such a beautiful visual presentation on the screen. The reflections look great. The lighting looks absolutely marvelous. Wow, yeah, this is still a very good looking game. But as I mentioned previously, DLSS 4 performance mode now looks quite good, so let's go ahead and try that out now. Yes, look at this. I think this is the way to go if you have the RTX 5070 Ti. This is the settings configuration that I would use because we're getting well above 60 FPS, 70 plus actually, and the image quality still is pretty decent. Obviously, it is not as good as DLSS balanced or quality, but I actually don't mind playing this game like this. It looks nice, enjoyable, and the FPS is high enough to enjoy the game. Let's take the Quadro out for a spin. Yes, let's go. 60 plus FPS. Oh my god, I'm being pursued already? No. Yes, I am. Someone's on my tail. Alright. Yeah, you see? Even when driving, it feels good. Controls are responsive. The image is nice and fluid. I think this is the way to go. Although I'm not quite happy with that frame time. But there is a way around it. We can cap our FPS at 60. This way we're getting a nice smooth frame rate, 60 FPS, uninterrupted, smooth experience. Yes. If you are not using frame generation, then this is the way to go. Always cap your FPS for the smoothest experience possible. Speaking of frame generation, let's try that now. We'll go for 2x frame generation first, which means that we're getting one generated frame per every real frame. And this is a much smoother experience. I can really tell the difference because we have a 240 Hz monitor. We're not constrained by 60 FPS. And the image fluidity is really good. Yeah, this feels great. I don't mind using frame generation 2x. Actually, it is one of my favorite ways to play games because 2x mode offers a brilliant balance between image quality and image fluidity. And just take a look at that. 120 plus FPS in Cyberpunk with the ray tracing enabled. Although I must remind you that we are using DLSS 4 performance mode. I find this experience highly enjoyable. But if you're looking for more frames, then you can utilize frame generation 3x. The 3x mode is not my favorite because anything above 2x mode is amplifying some of the visual imperfections introduced by DLSS. But not everyone will be against it because everyone's perception is different and you might find the 3x mode acceptable. And you certainly can't argue with this image fluidity. Take a look at that, 170 plus FPS. The image is so fluid right now. Let's try 4x mode next. There's no reason not to. This is not a horrible experience, and we are getting above 200 FPS right now, so the image is extremely fluid. Although I must say that, yeah, it appears that our base FPS is not enough to provide a good experience in this particular settings configuration because I'm starting to feel a disconnect between the mouse movements and what I'm seeing on the screen, which means that the latency is just a little bit too high for my liking. But again, everyone's perception is different, and you might feel differently. This is just me talking about my personal experience, I definitely prefer the 2x frame generation mode over the 3x and 4x. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a great example of where the gaming industry is headed in terms of video memory usage in future games. As you can see, we are currently at 12 gigabytes memory used, and we are not using ray tracing right now. This is just the maximum graphics quality preset at native 4K resolution. So if you have a 12 gigabyte graphics card and you want to max out your graphics and use other settings such as frame generation and ray tracing, both of which require additional memory to run, you're out of luck. Yeah, you need at least 16 gigabytes of memory in 2025 and beyond. And that is one of the main selling points of the 5070 Ti actually, because it has 16 gigabytes of memory. Let's take a look at the settings. As I mentioned, we are maxed out on the graphics quality, Supreme, and let's select the maximum ray tracing preset, full ray tracing. We'll keep resolution at native for now, just to get a reading of the baseline. As you can see, we are using above 15 gigabytes of memory. So yeah, even 16 gigabytes of memory doesn't give you much of a freedom nowadays. It's just a bare minimum, I would say, for 4K gaming. That is if you're planning on using frame generation or ray tracing. And in this game, we're actually getting 30 plus FPS right off the bat, so it is not as GPU intensive as Cyberpunk with its full ray tracing feature. Yeah, this is not bad actually. This makes me hopeful that we can achieve a great image quality using DLSS. Let's start with DLSS quality mode. Check this out. This is already very much playable. Close to 50 FPS? What is not to like over here, huh? And we're still using DLSS quality mode. We can still lower it further and get a better experience. Although I must say that this is one of the most demanding scenes in the game. Other levels in the game are much less stressful for the GPU. As you can see from this particular scene, we're getting 80 FPS, sometimes reaching 90. Full ray tracing, DLSS quality mode on a 4K monitor. This is amazing. And the game looks really good. Yeah. So what you could do is just lower some settings when you're playing through the first level, and then just enable full ray tracing, DLSS quality, and enjoy the game at 60 plus FPS consistently. Let's see what kind of experience we can get by utilizing DLSS balanced mode. We're getting closer to the 60 FPS experience in the jungle, although there are still dips to around 50-ish. So it's not a perfect 60 plus FPS experience. In other scenes, we're now getting 90 plus FPS. Wow, okay. This is a nice fluid experience. 100 plus. Right on. And the game looks beautiful. The reflections in the glass, the lighting. Wow. Let's see if DLSS performance mode can deliver us that 60 plus FPS experience in the jungle area. And indeed, it does so. 60 plus FPS. Nice. Look at this. Haha. Beautiful experience. Although the image is not as crisp now. Yeah. So I think it is best to go about this in a different direction. And what I mean by that is lower that ray tracing quality a little bit. Let's go back to DLSS quality mode, but lower our ray tracing quality by just one level. We'll select high quality preset. And DLSS quality mode is not quite enough to make this configuration work at 60 plus FPS. So let's go ahead and right away select DLSS balanced. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. Balanced mode. Interesting. We're barely reaching 60 FPS in some scenes and still dropping to around 56 to 55 in other scenes. Yeah, so it's not a consistent 60 plus FPS experience even using DLSS balanced mode. But in my opinion, this is a perfectly good experience. I wouldn't mind playing through this segment of the game at this quality, and then just increasing the quality after I'm done with this level. But if you want more FPS, then you can always select DLSS performance. And that actually delivers that 60 plus FPS consistently. Take a look at this. 70 plus over here, and then dropping to 60 plus over here, 69, nice. 67, yeah. And we're dropping to around 60-ish in some scenes. This is it, if you want a consistent 60 FPS experience. Although I can't say that I like how the foliage looks like using DLSS performance mode in this game. Yeah, there's just not enough fine detail for me to enjoy this visual presentation. Maybe it's best to reduce the ray tracing quality a little bit more. Let's go ahead and select medium, and we'll go back to DLSS quality mode. And there we go. We're still getting beautiful shadows and 60 plus FPS. Nice crisp image. Yeah, for this particular level, I think this is the best settings configuration. Oh, the game looks beautiful. And it feels smooth. Of course, you can utilize frame generation the same as in the previous game. I think it is not worth spending our time going over that again, because you pretty much can expect the same kind of FPS out of the frame generation as you've seen in Cyberpunk 2077. I think showcasing frame generation 2x mode will be more than enough to satisfy our curiosity. Take a look at this. Above 100 FPS, as expected. The frame generation performance is consistent across all games now. With the new DLSS model, frame generation consistently delivers double the FPS in all games. And we still have enough memory to handle that, actually, but we are very close to running out because we're utilizing 15 gigabytes, so there's not a lot of room left. Alan Wake 2 is a very GPU-demanding game, because check this out. At the moment, we're getting 60-ish FPS. Sometimes we're actually dropping below 60, 57, 59. Okay? And you know what settings I'm using? Check this out. DLSS quality mode, yeah? High graphics quality preset, which means that it's not maxed out. And no ray tracing at all. Okay? And it's impossible to get a consistent 60 plus FPS experience in the forest area. This is one of the levels in the game. You will have to spend a considerable amount of time in here. So achieving a good frame rate here is a necessity. Let's enable ray tracing maxed out preset Ultra, and we'll keep DLSS on quality mode just to see what will happen. And that more than halved our frame rate. We're now getting 20-ish FPS. Yeah, horrible experience. In other levels in the game, it is actually not that bad. Take a look at this. We are getting 30 plus FPS consistently over here. And once we go outside, we can get 40 plus. Let's see what DLSS balanced is like in this game. Even for this particular area, it is not enough. We're still well below 60 FPS, right? So we have to adjust it further. We'll have to go for DLSS performance. And that is still not quite enough to push us close to the 60 FPS experience we're looking for, even in the less demanding levels of the game. Take a look at that. We're 50 plus, 40 plus sometimes, and only 60 plus outside. This game requires us to make a lot of compromises, and we're here to find out exactly how far we have to go to achieve a good experience. So what I suggest we do is start lowering that ray tracing quality. Let's lower it to high. And it hasn't made a significant difference, but we are so close to 60 FPS and just several dips below 60. Okay, I think this is an acceptable level of performance, although we're still at DLSS performance mode, so it's not like great in terms of image quality. The game still looks good, but yeah, it's a huge compromise in my opinion. And it is still nowhere near enough to deliver a good experience in the forest area. We're at 30 plus FPS. So for the forest area, unfortunately, I think we just have to turn off ray tracing completely to enjoy this particular level, which isn't actually too bad because there's not that many reflections in the forest. It's mainly all about lighting and the general ambience of the forest. Most of it is dark with some bright patches. Let's try lowering ray tracing to medium. DLSS stays on performance mode. In the forest, we're still above 30 FPS, not even reaching 40. And let's see what will happen if we load into the town area. In terms of performance, this is actually quite good. We're now consistently at 60 plus, even indoors. I haven't seen a single dip below 60 yet. And even the reflections, yeah, the reflections still look good using this quality. Yeah, this ray tracing quality is still not bad actually. And the lake looks beautiful because without ray tracing, this lake looks lifeless. Yeah, but thanks to the ray traced reflections, it looks absolutely gorgeous. And the performance is good. I think this is the way to go if you are planning on using ray tracing in Alan Wake 2. Let's check the settings once more. We are at DLSS performance, using high graphics quality preset and medium ray tracing. Some aspects of the game will not look as nice as they would have if we were using DLSS quality mode or native resolution, such as the fences, as well as some wires. They look just a little tiny bit weird in some scenes under some angles, but mostly the game still looks and feels absolutely fine. I'm enjoying it. It is certainly better than not having ray tracing enabled at all, because the reflections and the lighting makes a huge difference in this game. And of course we can boost the image fluidity by introducing the frame generation 2x mode. That provides a pleasant 100 plus FPS experience. The controls feel nice. because we had above 60 FPS baseline before we turned on DLSS frame generation. Always follow that rule, you won't regret it. In conclusion, the 5070 Ti delivers a pleasant ray tracing experience in most games. However, there will be some extremely GPU demanding titles, such as Alan Wake 2, where in some levels it will be impossible to use ray tracing. Even the lower qualities of ray tracing, even if you use DLSS performance mode, that will not help. You still get 30 plus FPS. That is not enough for me to enjoy the game. That's the one small compromise that you'll have to make if you choose to use the 5070 Ti for 4K ray tracing gaming. You'll just have to disable ray tracing in some levels that are extremely GPU demanding. Overall, I am still impressed with what the RTX 5070 Ti can do when paired with the 4K monitor. It is a good, pleasant experience. I recommend it. Let me know what you think about this combo in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. That helps out a lot. And subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon and the links in the description below. But that's it for now. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.